Are you serious? I initially screamed into the phone when I received a call from my mom. How on earth did it come to a discussion about marrying my sister-in-law? I thought. I had no idea why my mother would suggest marrying my sister-in-law. But as my mother continued talking, I eventually found myself listening intently. My name is Brandon, and I'm 31 years old. Suddenly, I am in a state of confusion. This is because when I answered the phone, thinking it was just a routine check-in from my mom, she suddenly said this. Brandon, how are you? Listen, this is sudden, but would you marry Emily? What? What are you talking about all of a sudden? That's not a normal sentence to say after how are you. Why would you say something like why don't you marry Emily? I was so surprised that I shouted out loud. I even thought something might be wrong with my mom. My mom, unbothered by my agitation, started talking. Well, you see, Emily seems to be having a tough time raising her child alone. Linda from the neighborhood said she went to help her daughter, who just had a baby. That's where she saw Emily. I was curious about what Linda, who has been helping me since I was a kid, had witnessed. Linda has always been a nosy lady, unable to ignore anyone in the neighborhood who's in trouble. Emily currently lives about 3 hours away from our house. Because she's busy with work and raising her child, we only get to meet during long holidays like Thanksgiving. This year too, during Thanksgiving, I had a blast playing with my 5-year-old niece Sophie. But the fact that Linda made a point to tell my mom about it made me wonder what state Emily was in. What happened to Emily? That's the thing. According to Linda, Emily was sitting on a bench at the park, letting Sophie play. And didn't even move when Sophie called her mom. She seemed really tired. I see. Emily is always smiling, but that must be exhausting. She's doing everything alone. Holding my cell phone to my ear, I was thinking about Emily. I met Emily, who is my sister-in-law, when I was still a college student. The first time we met was when I was introduced to her by my brother in my senior year, at the age of 22. I have a brother who is 5 years older than me. His name is Michael. Our relationship as brothers was neither good nor bad, I suppose. The age difference played a part, and Michael and I had different personalities. I was a typical baseball kid, involved in Little League and immersed in baseball from morning till night. On the other hand, Michael didn't hate sports, but he preferred reading books or crafting, so we didn't play together much as brothers. Michael was smart and good at studying, so when I became a middle school student, he often helped me with my studies. Brandon, do you have any study guides for the entrance exams? If not, want to use mine? Bro, I don't think I'll understand even if I look at the study guides. Can you teach me? As I prioritized club activities until the last minute during my high school entrance exams, I wasn't confident in the written tests. I figured it would be better to be taught by Michael, who was smart, rather than going to a cram school at that point. After discussing it with my parents, I begged Michael for help. Seriously, first, try solving the problems I give you. Although I solved the problems Michael gave me, the results were not good. Seeing my answers, Michael, who seemed to have switched on, became an incredibly enthusiastic tutor. We studied hard together, and I somehow managed to pass the entrance exam to my desired high school. Michael, already a college student by then, was incredibly happy for me. That's great, Brandon. You worked hard. I was embarrassed but happy at the smiling and ruffled-haired Michael, which was a very memorable image for me. From then on, I think I started talking more with Michael. Michael, always a step ahead, was my role model. He was a bit stubborn, but I like my kind brother. When I was in my sophomore year of college, Michael was 25. I think it was around that time when Michael introduced me to Emily. Brandon, I want to introduce you to someone. Yes, the voice of Michael on the phone sounded embarrassingly bashful, as if he was struggling to hold back a grin. Really? Bro, a girlfriend? That's awesome. I want to meet her. I immediately jumped at Michael's news. She's my girlfriend. Well, she is now. I mean, I want to marry her. That's what I'm thinking. Michael, at 25, had a calm and intellectual aura that honestly made him popular with women. He seemed unaware of his own appeal, though. So, I was excited to meet the woman Michael had chosen, especially since he was considering marriage. Getting married, that's huge. I can't wait to meet her. When are you introducing us? I plan to come home for New Year's. Will you be at the house, Brandon? Yeah, I'll be there. My part-time job is on break. I'm looking forward to it. Got it. I'll call you again when I have more details. After hanging up, I told my parents, and it seemed each of them had already heard. They were as excited as I was. In anticipation of New Year's, we eagerly cleaned the house and did some serious shopping. Then, finally, the day came when Michael would bring his girlfriend. We were all restless after Michael called to say they were almost here. When the doorbell rang, we even argued over who should answer it. Eventually, I decided to do it and opened the front door. Brandon, long time no see. Are Mom and Dad doing well? They're good. Oh, and you must be his girlfriend. Nice to meet you. Standing nervously behind Michael was Emily, his future wife. When I spoke to her, Emily stepped forward from behind Michael and replied politely. Nice to meet you, I'm Emily. I'm in a relationship with Michael. Sorry for intruding on your New Year's family gathering. Thank you so much for letting me come. I couldn't help but have a good impression of Emily, who greeted us politely despite her nervousness. She was petite with fair skin and big eyes. There was something about her that was adorably kitten-like. I thought she was genuinely cute. And it seemed my parents thought the same. Oh my, she's so cute. Dad, isn't she just adorable? Emily, the woman set to become your mother-in-law, seems to have really taken a liking to you. I thought to myself that the typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issues probably wouldn't exist in our house. Watching my parents, these thoughts crossed my mind. Indeed, she's a lovely young lady. Let's not stand in the entrance. Please, come in. Dad was smiling like I'd never seen before. He had once said, raising two boys was a lot of fun, but I've always wanted to raise a girl too. He had let that slip while slightly tipsy. I'm looking forward to you and Michael finding wives, he had said. At the time, I had just broken up with a girlfriend, so I could only respond with a wry smile. Yeah, let's go in. And Emily, please. I know it's hard not to be nervous, but I think, if I may say so myself, that you'll find everyone in our family quite nice. He looked at Emily with a kind face, as if to reassure her. Michael is generally a kind person, but I thought this particular expression was reserved just for Emily. She really caught a great guy. Then, we all introduced ourselves, a bit nervously, and enjoyed a meal together. Mom was incredibly enthusiastic, preparing lots of Michael's favorite dishes. We had a great time looking at photo albums and spending time together. That time is still a precious memory for me. Thanks for today. It was fun. And thanks for meeting Emily. Emily is such a great person. Take good care of her, bro. Yeah. Count on me. Michael declared this proudly, and Emily smiled shyly but looked very happy. My parents and I saw off the two of them, and a happy day came to an end. Afterwards, their relationship progressed smoothly, and a year later, they happily held their wedding ceremony. Brandon, I'm so happy to become family with you. Me too. Can I call you sis from now on? Of course, you can. I'm fine with bro too. It'd be weird if Brandon suddenly started calling me big brother now, right? Probably. I'll still call you bro even when we're old and gray. That's fine by me. Hey, let's drink together, even when we're old. I did a fist bump with Michael, watching the ceremony to the end. The sight of them pledging their eternal love in the chapel was so moving, I cried a little. To be honest, not just a little, I cried a lot. After the wedding, Michael and Emily lived happily, and we all got along well as an extended family. 3 years into their marriage, Michael called to say they had something to tell us and asked if they could come over. At the time, I was at work and only heard about it when I got home. But when I found out Michael and Emily were coming, I noticed something was off with my usually cheerful mom. What's wrong, Mom? You seem more gloomy than usual. Something happened. Mom is usually optimistic and laughs a lot, but she was different that time. Mom seemed a bit troubled when I asked her. Do I? Well, I'm a bit worried. Michael sounded so lifeless on the phone. It was just different from usual. All I could do was vaguely nod at her words. I couldn't imagine a downcast Michael. He's always been so calm, but being calm is different from lacking energy. Thinking we would understand better once we met, I tried to encourage Mom. Maybe he's just tired from work. We'll know when we see them. That seemed to settle her a bit. That's true. No point worrying now. They're coming this Saturday, so let's make some delicious food to cheer them up. Mom started cleaning the house as usual, and I felt relieved. I was looking forward to seeing Michael again on Saturday. Then, on that day, about 20 minutes after Michael texted that they were almost home, they arrived at the front door. Our smiles froze when we saw them. Michael had lost a noticeable amount of weight. He was always slim, and we thought he'd never need to diet. Bro, hey, long time no see. Surprised, huh? I lost some weight. Michael was smiling, but his smile seemed tired. Shall we go in? You must be tired, Michael. Emily gently nudged him with a worried look. Snapping out of it, my parents invited them to sit in the living room. We all sat at the dining table in silence until Mom served tea. After taking a slow sip of tea, Michael started talking. Sorry for the shock, I lost a lot of weight. Losing weight really drains your energy. What happened? Heat stroke? Mom asked, furrowing her brows with concern. No, not heat stroke. Cancer. Terminal. They said I have a year left. Michael spoke about something incredible as if it were nothing at all. He said it with the same casualness as if asking, "What's for dinner today?" or remarking, "The weather is really nice today, isn't it?" Naturally, my parents and I froze. I don't know how long we were frozen, but we came to our senses when Emily sniffled. I moistened my dry mouth with tea and started speaking. Probably Dad or Mom should have asked, but they were still in shock. I had to be strong and start the conversation, as I knew we all probably had the same questions in mind. Terminal. Is it really, I mean, incurable? Not even surgery or chemotherapy? Michael responded calmly to my question. Yes, there's nothing that can be done. I even sought second opinions, hoping to extend my life, but after visiting 4 hospitals, they all said the same thing. I'm just tired of it all. Emily was silently crying next to him. Right, they had just built a house and were excited about their careers. They just built a house, and you were so happy about the big project at work. Why does it have to be you, bro? My voice trembled as I spoke. I had to exert effort to hide my shaking. I clenched my teeth, desperately holding back tears. It's harder for Michael. They had just gotten married, acquired their own home, and everything was going well at work. It was a life full of happiness. Yet suddenly, Michael's future was given a finite deadline. That was the hardest part. Is there anything we can do? Anything we can help with? Mom said this through her tears. But even while crying, she looked steadily into Michael's eyes. There's a lot, but the most immediate request is about Emily. Michael looked at Emily with his usual gentle smile. Emily tried to smile back at him, but tears kept streaming down her face. Emily's pregnant. Hearing that, I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. A strange sound came from deep in my throat, a stark realization that I was crying. Tears wouldn't stop flowing. Mom also started crying loudly. I buried my face in my sleeve like a child. Will you make it? Will you get to see your child, even just for a moment? Dad asked for all of us. Yeah, I plan to see the child. I want to, at all costs. I hope to be there for at least the first 3 months after the birth. As we wiped our tears, I saw Michael smiling. Emily was smiling next to him too. I couldn't stop wondering how much they had talked and cried about this before telling us. The thought made me cry again. It's going to be tough after the baby is born, right? I plan to go to fatherhood classes and share the parenting, since Emily has no parents. Could we ask for help after the birth? Don't worry, leave it to us. We'll be there for you. Emily, will you rely on me? Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Mom. I appreciate it. Sorry, Dad, Mom. I haven't been a good son. And the order of things is all wrong, isn't it? Sorry, Brandon. I guess I won't be able to drink with you when we're old. Michael apologized, referencing our conversation from the wedding, and I managed to smile through my tears. I'll drink on your behalf, bro. Do that for me. But don't overdo it, okay? He reached across the table and ruffled my hair. His hand was Michael's, but the wrist peeking out of the sleeve was thin. This conversation wasn't a lie or a dream. It was real. Michael really had a limited time left. The reality was so sad and frustrating that I cried again. I wanted to rebel, saying I wasn't a child to be comforted. But maybe this could be the last time he'd comfort me. Maybe there's still time, but maybe. Can I enjoy being comforted for a bit longer, bro? I'll ruffle your hair as much as you want until it's time. Michael said happily, continuing to ruffle my hair. My parents and I were visibly affected, and I could hear my parents sniffing louder, but I didn't mind. I think Michael probably didn't either. After being consoled by Michael for as long as I needed, he and Emily left. Now, our entire family was worried about them driving home. I might have lost a bit of strength and get tired more easily, but I want to live as normally as possible for now. Don't worry, I'll make sure he's careful. We repeatedly asked her to take good care of Michael and saw them off. As soon as they left, Mom collapsed in tears. Why? Why does it have to be him? Why does he have to go through this? She cried like I had never seen before, wailing loudly. It's true. Why? I'd take his place if I could, especially now that they're expecting a child. Even Dad, who had seemed calm, knelt beside Mom and cried. It's true. He was just trying to stay composed, but Dad surely wanted to cry and wail too. He's always been a family-oriented and doting father. Seeing my parents in tears, I knelt down and hugged them. The parents who once seemed so big and protective, now felt so small as I became an adult. Let's do everything we can. Let's support Michael and Emily in every way we can. I don't know how or what we can do, but let's give it our all. My tearful words made my parents nod in agreement. We decided on 3 things during our family meeting. Not to impose our opinions on Michael and Emily. To support whatever they want to do. To offer financial assistance within a non-burdensome range. We were careful about giving them space, but stayed involved in their lives. When Emily had severe morning sickness, Mom stayed overnight with her, and Dad or I accompanied her to the hospital when needed. As time went on, Emily's pregnancy progressed to 6 months. Michael found strength in talking to Emily's belly and supporting their growing child. But then, the day came suddenly. One late night, our house phone rang. All of us jumped up, startled, and I took care of Mom, who was frozen in shock, while Dad answered the phone. "Hello, Emily." Yeah. Dad's tense voice made Mom and me feel an ominous premonition. Mom clutched the sleeve of my sweatshirt. I held her shoulder tightly. "Understood. We'll be there right away. Hang in there, Emily. We're coming," Dad repeatedly assured Emily, and I realized that the time had come sooner than expected. "Is bro not doing well?" He suddenly became unwell and lost consciousness. "They've asked for family to come," Dad explained. "Why now?" He was so close to meeting his child. Mom cried, unable to hold back her emotions. I felt incredibly frustrated. Encouraging my devastated parents, I spoke up. "Let's say our goodbyes properly. Let's get dressed quickly. Dad, should I drive? It might be safer." I tried to speak calmly. That seemed to motivate my parents to get moving. "Would you mind?" "Thank you." "No worries. Let's hurry." We then drove through the night on the highway to the hospital. It took about 3 hours using the highway. I kept wishing the hospital was closer. Michael and Emily trusted the hospital's doctors greatly, so we had kept our promise from the beginning not to interfere with their hospital choice. Upon arriving at the hospital, we passed through the night reception and were led to Michael's room. It was a simple private room, where my thin brother lay on the bed. He looked as if he could stop breathing at any moment. Emily was by the bed, crying and holding Michael's hand. "Look, everyone's here. Your father, mother, and Brandon." Michael. "Oh, why has this happened?" "Michael, you did well. You were so brave, despite all the hardships." My parents spoke to him one after another, while I stood frozen, unable to take a step. I had so much I wanted to say to Michael, but saying goodbye felt like accepting the inevitable, and I couldn't find the courage. It was Emily who gently pulled my hand. "Brandon, please say your goodbyes to Michael." Though she was crying, her grip was strong. Yes, Emily was the one who was suffering more. She had to raise the child in her belly alone now. I couldn't afford to be scared. I nodded, let Emily lead me to Michael's bed, and took my brother's thin hand. Dad gently made room for me, and I took Michael's hand, now so thin. "Bro, you've worked so hard. It was a bit sudden at the end, but I'll never forget you. Don't worry about Emily and the baby. We'll take good care of them. So, it's okay. I intended to grip it firmly, wondering if this would reassure Michael. I squeezed his hand tightly and wiped away my tears. I wiped my tears and Emily spoke to him. "Thank you for all the happiness. Our time together might have been shorter than others, but I was happy. I'll be happy from now on too. I'll make sure our child is happy. Thank you." We all cried uncontrollably. It seemed like Michael waited for everyone's farewells before quietly passing away. After that, I cried so much, I honestly don't remember how I spent my time. When I came to my senses, everything was over, and a small altar for Michael was set up in our house. Every day, we gathered as a family, prayed at the altar, and talked about Michael. "Emily, not much longer now. We're so excited." "Yeah. But are you okay, Emily? Going back to the house Michael built, all alone. It's worrying, but it's what Emily wants." Indeed, Emily had refused our suggestion to stay with us until after the birth and recovery. "I want to be in the house Michael built for us. For now, that's what I need." With tears in her eyes, Emily said to us, and we couldn't insist. We just asked her to contact us if anything happened and kept an appropriate distance. Then, as my parents and I were discussing that it was almost time, we received a message from Emily. She was going into labor and on her way to the hospital, asking my mother to come. Mom quickly got ready. "Dad, get the car ready," she said, grabbing the bag she had prepared. "Let's go. Brandon, can you stay home?" "Sure, I'm not a kid. I'll be fine." Seeing Mom bustling about, I felt relieved. She had been quite down. After my parents left, I prayed at Michael's altar. "Bro, Emily's doing great. Please cheer for her." Later, around 10 a.m. the next day, I got a call from Mom. "She's born. A beautiful baby girl. Emily is tired but okay." I felt a deep sense of relief. Tears of joy rolled down my cheeks. "That's great. Really great. Yay, that's great." I couldn't say anything else, and after hanging up, I prayed again at Michael's altar. "Bro, you and Emily did great. That's wonderful." Somehow, even Michael's photo seemed pleased. I met my niece Sophie about 2 weeks after her discharge from the hospital. Mom had told me that a woman's body post-childbirth is like having been in a car accident, which really scared me. "Thank you, Brandon." Emily said this apologetically, propping herself up in bed with the baby in her arms. "I'm single and clueless, but I heard that a woman's body after childbirth really needs to be cared for, so please, really lean on Mom and take it easy. Thank you. Your mom has been taking care of everything. That's natural. You're our beloved daughter now, and you gave us a grandchild. Thank you. Brandon, this is Sophie." Michael had named her. Emily offered for me to hold her, but I refused with all my might. Too scary. I couldn't bear the thought of something happening to this delicate being because of me. What would I say to my brother then? No, 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 that's too much for me. What if something happens? My panic made the women laugh, but Dad understood my fear. "I get it, Brandon. I was the same when Michael was born." I agreed with Dad and asked to take a photo with my phone instead. "Let me hold her when she's a bit stronger. Can I take a picture?" "Of course. Take as many as you like." She was so adorable up close, and I took countless photos. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. Somehow, she seemed to resemble Michael, and tears welled up in my eyes. "Maybe she does look a bit like Bro, doesn't she?" I wiped away my forced tears and began my first meeting with Sophie, discussing how she resembles Michael and Emily. While driving to see Emily, I reminisced about all that had happened. Sophie was now a thriving 5-year-old. Emily had been raising her alone while working, and she looked well when she last visited. If something was wrong, I figured it would be better to show up unannounced rather than calling ahead, so this time, I decided not to inform Emily beforehand about my visit to her house. Normally, it would be rude, which is why I usually wouldn't do it. While thinking about this, I arrived at the house Michael built, where Emily and Sophie now live alone. I pressed the intercom button. I heard Sophie's footsteps running inside. "Just a minute, Sophie. Don't open the door on your own. Uncle Brandon." Ignoring Emily's words, Sophie flung the door open. "Brandon, what brings you here?" Emily looked tired. "Hey Emily, it's been a while. I'm here to take Sophie for a little while." My sudden offer surprised her. "What? Take her? What do you mean? Emily, you're pushing yourself too hard. How much are you sleeping? Eating properly?" When I decided to have this conversation, I made sure it wouldn't sound like I was blaming Emily. Knowing Emily, who struggles to ask for help and always tries to handle everything on her own, it was crucial. If she felt criticized, she would only continue to push herself even harder alone. Can you let her kindergarten know she'll be off for 3 days? 3 days. I know you have to work, so I'll take Sophie. I got tickets to that theme park and hotel she's been wanting to visit. We'll be away for 2 nights. So can you let them know she'll be off for 3 days? I showed Sophie the tickets with her favorite characters on them. Sophie, how about going to this park with Uncle Brandon? Recognizing the theme park, Sophie was overjoyed. Sophie, let's go. With Uncle Brandon. Mom's going to stay home, okay. She needs a break too. It might be hard for my 5-year-old niece to understand, but I explained that her mother also needed rest. Sophie looked curiously at my face and then at Emily before smiling brightly. Okay, Mom, I want to wear my pink pants. I want to go now. Urged by Sophie, Emily snapped back to reality. Pink pants, got it. Emily, can we talk a bit while you're getting her things ready? Sure. We 3 prepared Sophie's things together. Sophie went to choose a stuffed animal to bring along, leaving me a moment to talk to Emily. I told her about how Linda saw her looking exhausted, how we worried she was secretly very tired despite always smiling around us, and how Mom suggested I should marry her. Emily was shocked. What? Your mom said that? Her reaction was just as I expected. I had been equally baffled at first. I was surprised too. We both laughed. Sure, I was keeping it together for Sophie. I always think I have to be strong and keep going. Tears started to flow from Emily's eyes. I imagined that since Michael passed away, Emily might never have confided her struggles to anyone. I handed her my handkerchief. At that moment, I felt a strong desire to support Emily. Perhaps making Mom's suggestion a reality wasn't such a bad idea. Of course, Emily and Sophie's feelings mattered. I actually think it's a good idea. We know each other's personalities, right? There might be parts we haven't shown each other. But it's better than starting from zero. Emily looked up in surprise at my words. Her eyes still had tears in them, but above all, her face was flushed red, which was endearing. Are you teasing me? This is a big deal for me and Sophie. I'm not teasing. I understand it's important. You're tired now and probably can't think straight. Rest first. Oh, and this is from Mom. Saying that, I handed her an envelope filled with cash. I was asked to give this to you, with a message to use it for your own rest. Thank you, your Mom. Emily cried a bit more, but looked somewhat relieved. You look relieved. I'm glad you could cry. Think about what I said, okay? I never thought of you that way, Brandon, since you've always been just my brother-in-law. But now I remember something Michael said. What did Bro say? He said you were kind and compassionate, and if anything happened, I should rely on you, that I could trust you with me and the baby. I laughed because it sounded so bossy. It seemed like a random comment at the time, but now it suddenly makes sense. I laughed, hearing Michael's premonition. Indeed, it was somewhat presumptuous, but Michael would never entrust what he cherished to someone he didn't trust. At the very least, he trusted me enough to believe I could take care of his wife and child. I laughed to hide the sting in my nose. Bro, you were amazing. So insightful. When Emily laughed, Sophie came back, carrying an impossible amount of stuffed animals in her arms and looking extremely pleased with herself. Sophie's adorable expression made both Emily and me laugh. After convincing Sophie to bring just one toy, she and I set off for 2 nights of fun. Sophie was well behaved, managing bathroom trips and changing clothes on her own. Having bathed with her at my parents' house, I knew there'd be no issues there. What struck me was her limitless energy. How could a child have so much stamina? By the second night, I fully realized the challenges of parenting. At the same time, I deeply respected Emily for doing it all alone. All right, let's head back to Mom's place. Yay. After thoroughly enjoying ourselves for 2 nights and 3 days, we returned home to where Emily was waiting. Since I had told her we'd be arriving soon, Emily was waiting for us in front of the house. Mommy, Sophie waved excitedly from the car window. After parking and opening the door to get her out, she ran straight into Emily's arms. Chattering away, she told her mom all about our adventures. Emily, smiling and listening, seemed a bit more energized. Once inside, Sophie plopped down on my lap, making a chair out of my arms. Ah, so cute. I found myself smiling naturally. As I recounted our activities over the past couple of days, Sophie started to get sleepy and a bit fussy. When Emily suggested it was bedtime, Sophie refused to be held by her. I want to sleep with Uncle Brandon. Not Mommy, Uncle Brandon. Hold me. I picked up the grumpy Sophie and asked Emily to prepare a bed. All right, let's sleep. Uncle Brandon will sleep too. I laid down next to her on the bed. Sophie, apparently very tired, talked for a bit but soon fell asleep. I watched her peaceful sleeping face, thinking how adorable she was, and eventually, I must have fallen asleep too. I was awakened by Sophie patting my face. Wake up! Seeing me jump up, both Sophie and Emily burst into laughter. What? Seriously? I fell asleep. You looked so comfortable sleeping next to Sophie that we didn't want to wake you. I can believe it. Even though I thought I was fine, keeping up with a 5-year-old's boundless energy for 2 days straight was apparently quite exhausting. Hey, Uncle Brandon, aren't you staying here? Sophie suddenly started a conversation. Huh? What does she mean by staying here? Like me, Emily seemed confused too. What do you mean? I want Uncle Brandon to always be at our house. I want to go out and play again, eat meals together, and nap. I wish Uncle Brandon could be my daddy. Sophie, your daddy is. I stayed silent, watching carefully. Emily seemed unsure of how to respond. As Emily was deep in thought, Sophie said to her. Pointing at Michael's photo, Sophie said, "It's okay to have 2 daddies." At those words, Emily started crying, and I couldn't help but cry too. Seeing us adults suddenly tear up, Sophie looked bewildered. Mommy, does it hurt somewhere? No, honey, I'm fine. I'm just surprised by how thoughtful you are. Yes, having 2 daddies is okay. Wow, really? You're truly Michael and Emily's child. I wiped my tears, feeling genuinely moved. Children are incredibly pure. They leap over the complications adults get caught up in without a second thought. So, Uncle Brandon, I want you to be my daddy. Feeling the weight of Sophie hunting me, I silently vowed to make her and Emily happy, in Michael's stead. Of course, that includes both Sophie and Emily. I want Uncle Brandon to be my daddy. Should we ask Mom? If Michael were here, he'd surely laugh and say everything will work out just fine. Thank you, Brandon. How about we start by dating? With the understanding that you'll be a dad. Those words made me incredibly happy. Thank you, I'm looking forward to it. Yay, let's hug. Mom and Uncle Brandon, hug. Sophie pulled me over to Emily for a hug. All 3 of us were smiling. Sophie kept saying hug over and over, giggling happily, while Emily smiled shyly. I vowed to myself and to Michael to always protect these smiles.